Hey, what is going on guys? My name is EndingGamertag and I'm back for your daily Fortnite video. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys a tutorial as well as an in-depth guide of how to play Claw in Fortnite. We're going to be covering what I consider to be the most important topics and aspects of Claw, going from what Claw is, why you should be playing Claw, how to make the transition from being a non-Claw player over to Claw, pretty much the best practices for Claw, and also the best settings to use, therefore you can optimize playing Claw. Now if you guys enjoyed today's video, a like would be beyond appreciated, and of course on the contrary, if you genuinely dislike today's video, then by all means feel free to leave a dislike. Nonetheless, with that out of the way, let's hop right into this. Now firstly, what is Claw? Claw refers to the way that you hold your controller. There's two common ways to hold controller. One is the default way where you use your thumbs for your analog sticks as well as your A, B, Y, and X buttons, or X, circle, triangle, and square for PlayStation 4 controllers. And Claw is basically the other common method where you use your thumb still for your analog sticks, however you use your index finger for your A, B, Y, and X buttons. The reason they call it Claw is because obviously your hand kind of makes a claw shape. Now why you should use Claw? Well, Claw allows you to basically have control over everything that you're doing throughout the entire game. When you're not using Claw and you go to jump, reload, edit, build, or switch from anything from your inventory to your pickaxe, basically you're letting go of your right analog stick in order to press those buttons. This is detrimental because you're basically not being able to look around or move or even aim while using any of those actions. So when you go to edit, you can't aim. When you go to build, you're unable to look around to build. When you jump, you're unable to aim and land a shot on an opponent. There's so many cons to playing like this. So basically Claw is the better alternative because you're never letting go of your right analog stick while doing any of those actions. When you go to edit, you can aim around and look around instantly. When you go to build, you can look around while building instantly. When you go to jump, you're able to still take shots on opponents and being able to aim at the same time. So the reason Claw is the better alternative is again because it allows us to have complete control over everything in Fortnite at the exact same time. And in my personal opinion, this is kind of one of the main things that sets apart your average player to your advanced and pro players. In fact, most of the pro controller players like Ghost Aiden, Nick Mercs, X, Faceway, Razor X, all of these players do play on Claw. I can't even think of a pro player that does not use a Claw grip. Now how to play Claw, and honestly it's a lot easier than you guys might think. Well, you basically hold the controller the exact same way. However, the only difference is you just kind of want to curve your index finger and take it off of the triggers. Again, we're pressing the A, B, Y, and X buttons with our index finger, so you kind of just want to curve it and rest it in the middle or center of those buttons. And again, it's not going to feel extremely natural at first, it's going to feel really weird and uncomfortable, but as time goes on, you'll eventually get used to it, and this is basically the only change you have to make. Of course, you're going to be using your middle finger on your right hand to press the R1 and R2 buttons. Then of course your thumb rests on the analog stick and then your index finger is resting between the A, B, Y, and X buttons. So whenever you go to jump, edit, reload, any of those things, you basically just move your index finger to that button and press it down of course, while still keeping your thumb on the analog stick. And whenever you're taking a shot at an opponent or placing a wall or something along those lines that requires the R1 or R2 buttons, you use your middle finger to press them down. And that is realistically all you have to do. Now some PS4 players will actually curve their index finger on their left hand as well, because of course PlayStation 4's analog stick is placed differently than the Xbox One. Majority of players actually don't do this, but if you do use your D-pad on the PS4 controller for any of your buttons and actions, then this might be a little helpful. But again, most people don't use this. And that's actually the basics of using Claw. Now is how you guys can actually make the transitional period as efficient and quick as possible. Obviously, if you switch from a grip that you've been using for years upon years over to Claw, it's going to feel beyond unnatural. That is kind of a given. And I kind of can relate these to keybinds. Whenever you guys have switched your keybinds to newer keybinds, obviously it's not completely comfortable and natural, and it takes some time to get used to it. And the same goes for using a Claw grip. With time and practice, of course, you'll eventually get used to it, and it'll become second nature, and you won't even think about it as you're pressing the buttons, you'll just automatically do it. Now the way to speed up this transitional period is of course to utilize creative mode as a form of practice. Obviously, if you hop into a solos game or like an arena game and you try to use Claw for the first time, you're going to get absolutely destroyed because you're not used to it. So this is why we use creative or playground to our advantage. Basically, just load into a creative match and just practice building, practice editing, practice everything that you need to do. Practice jumping around while looking, maybe load into a game with a friend or two, tell them to go easy on you and try to do like a really slow moving 1v1. And just do this for maybe an hour a day at most, And within a week or maybe even a few days, you'll eventually get so used to it that you won't even start to think about it. Then you can obviously go in 1v1s and even just go in your regular solo, duos, or squad matches. Now, one of the main things that I realistically think would help you guys in terms of your transitional period is to use the specific creative map. Now, I have the code up on screen right here for this creative map, and basically all you want to do is enter this in the Rift on creative and load into it. Now, this map is amazing because it actually allows us to practice our editing and building. That's essentially what this is targeted for helping people with. And basically once you load in, you guys can see there's going to be different parts of the map that all pertain to building and editing. And my favorite is this right here. From left to right, you start off with slow, then you go to normal speed, fast, and very fast. And again, this pertains to the speed. So when you run on this pad, that actually makes you move slowly. So you run slower, but everything else stays the same. So basically you guys can just edit through wall after wall after wall. And this allows you to get used to editing and building with this claw grip. Once you get past the slow portion of it, you can then move to the normal speed. After you do that, if you'd like, you can move on to the fast speed, but I always like to cap it off at the normal speed. And you guys can just keep practicing this over and over again. A lot of people use this before they get into a game, but in my opinion, this is extremely critical and important for this transitional period and getting used to using a claw grip. Once you're done with the editing portion, you can actually just go to any open area of the map and then begin to practice building, practice 90s, doing general edits, do whatever you'd like to do that you think would help you in terms of practicing using a claw grip. Now, unfortunately for a lot of the pro players, and myself included, when we made the transition over to the claw grip, these kind of things were not even available for us. We actually had to practice on regular public matches like solos and duos. So you guys definitely have quite an advantage, or are extremely lucky to have this opportunity. So definitely use creative and playground modes to your advantage in terms of learning how to use a claw grip. Now lastly, we're going to hop into settings that I find to be the best for using a claw grip in Fortnite. Settings are extremely important for claw because of course you're holding the controller differently, so you can now actually press certain buttons a lot quicker and more efficiently than if you were to use a default grip. And basically the keybinds that I use are the same one faze uses, so that should be enough evidence of proof that these keybinds are extremely efficient and do work for the claw grip. So firstly, my Y button, which is triangle for PS4, is binded to edit. And the reason this is very helpful is because our index finger is already resting around this button. So whenever we go to edit, basically it's already instantaneously. We don't have to move any of our fingers that much. Then my left analog stick clicked in is set to toggle pickaxe. And then lastly, for my keybinds, my confirm for edit button is set to left trigger. So whenever I go to edit, I press my Y button, which of course is triangle for PS4, and our finger is already resting here. I select my tile with R2, and then I confirm it with my left trigger button. Now these edits are basically the quickest you can get in Fortnite. These keybinds are the best in terms for editing and overall playing for Fortnite when using a claw grip. And now I'm going to share with you guys some gameplay between the two different ways of holding your controller, showing you guys basically how much of a difference playing in claw can make. Now I know I included some of this gameplay probably in the beginning of today's video or earlier in the video, however now I kind of want to hop into it and target and really discuss and show you guys the main differences. So obviously this is me not using a claw grip, this is me using my thumbs as most of you guys would when pressing basically every button. When going to edit, it's obviously extremely slow. Whenever I go and press my edit button, I have to let go of the right analog stick, and then I have to go all the way back. This is extremely awful because basically I'm not allowing myself to start my edits instantly. Same thing goes with building. Here is just some general 90s. These are the best 90s I could pull off with not using a claw grip. I'm sure some of you guys could probably do better, but this is basically the best that I could get when not using a claw grip. The problem with not using a claw grip when building at all, even beyond 90s, is because whenever you go to press your build button, you have to let go of your right analog stick, so you can't build instantaneously. Also, whenever you jump, you also have to let go of your right analog stick. So you guys can see the problem here. You're constantly letting go of your right analog stick, and this is what is used to control everything in Fortnite. For aiming, accuracy, editing, building, literally everything is controlled by the right analog stick, so we never want to let go of that. Now here's some gameplay of me actually using the claw grip, kind of doing the same scenario, starting with edits on this wall right here. You guys can see these are a lot more quicker and efficient. And then also you guys will see some 90s here in a few seconds. These certainly weren't the best that I could pull off, but they were definitely a lot better than the original 90s that I shared with you guys. When using claw, basically you're never letting go of the right analog stick. Whenever you're jumping to do 90s, whenever you're editing, whenever you start to build, no matter what the case is, the analog stick is always being in control by your thumb. And this is why it is extremely important. Again, as I mentioned, the right analog stick is kind of the main control center for everything in Fortnite. Everything that matters roots back to this button. So claw is what allows us to never let go of it and always have control of everything. And obviously this doesn't just stop at editing and building. This goes for accuracy and aiming and general movement throughout Fortnite. Every action is impacted on whether you use a claw or a non-claw grip. And that's going to be it for today's video on how to actually use claw in Fortnite. If you guys found today's video helpful or enjoyable, a like would be beyond appreciated. And of course, on the contrary, if you genuinely disliked today's video, then by all means feel free to leave a dislike as well. And if you're new around here and would like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future, feel free to subscribe as well as turning on those post notifications. Nonetheless, my name is EndingGamertag, thank you all for watching today's video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Adios.